Welcome, my name is Lisa Cox, Public Information Officer here at the Happy Camp Complex, and we're streaming this meeting live from our Incident Command Post in Montague, California. Tonight you'll hear from members of our Incident Management Team, Forest staff, and Emergency Management officials. If you have any questions, please drop them into the chat and we'll answer them at the conclusion of the meeting. First up, we have our Operations Section Chief, Alex Macbeth.
All right, good evening, everybody. Once again, I'm Alex Macbeth, Operations for California Incident Management Team 5 with your August 30th update. I'm going to go around the fire, starting down on the Klamath River and Dillon Creek, down on the Elliott fire. That fire has checked up in Dillon Creek on the southern end. Along 96, the fire is down to the highway and is burning down, so the rocks in the rollout that have been encumbering that highway down there is starting to lighten up. So looking good. Things are starting to subside as far as all the rollout. And then coming up around the north end, as you can see, we have line. And then the only real activity on the Elliott was down here out of Swillop Creek and Coon Creek. The fire is active on top of the ridge between the two creeks. We have crews on top of the ridge that are actively containing that fire. They have put a little bit of fire from the top of the ridge going across Coon Creek just to stay out in front of this so it can't make a run out of there this afternoon. But all is well as of this afternoon. Moving up to the U-Fish. The U-Fish fire hasn't had a whole lot of line on it for a couple weeks now, but our crews out there are doing great work. So the U-Fish fire has now been fired. A firing operation has now made it black from the top of Buzzard Hill to the north on Titus Ridge and back down to the Klamath River. That is all tied in and blackened off those lines. So things are looking really good. That was good progress today. That essentially blocks off everything that had potential to run towards Happy Camp with some type of blocking line. So good news out of the U-Fish this afternoon. Moving on down to the Madrone. Over the last couple days, they fired the southern end of the Madrone. There was a lot of heat and a bunch of rocks in here, and they were able to find a ridge, come down to Elk Creek, and that has been connected from the top of Titus Ridge down to Elk Creek. We have folks in Elk Creek drainage to provide any type of structure protection or support in that area. So Malone's looking really, really good. The northern end of the Malone has kind of checked up, and we don't foresee any issues coming out of the north end. So as far as everything downriver, south of Happy Camp, we believe we've checked off all the fire that could have potential to move to the north. So good news. Moving over to the east side, we have the Den up to the north of the head fire. Here's the head, the Den. The Den fire is contained. There was one hot spot on the Den, and they actively went in there to mop that up, and that was the last hot spot that we found on that fire. So that fire is contained and in mop up. The head fire, the crew's been working really, really hard over the last 3 or 4 days, going into some really rugged country to pick up direct line around this fire. So up to the north of the Klamath River, all the way from 96 back around the north to the Klamath, there is crews and line around the whole northern edge, with the exception of a couple spots. They're really steep drainages, it's cliffed out, that there is fire down in. But they've IR'd it and feel that has a good enough buffer of black in there now between any heat that might be in there to hold. So effectively, the top of that piece has been cut off, and we don't expect any further fire growth out of that. Coming around from 96 up to Collins Bally Lookout, everything has been blackened out. Crews have checked it all, and it's in patrol status. From Collins Bally back down to Scotts Bar, they have line on that direct line on that entire piece, and we have crews in there mopping up to strengthen those the distance between any active fire and the line. Looking real good. Our problem piece has been down here in Tango, right in the very corner. That was wrapped up today. 2 crews went in there with aviation support, and they have direct line now all the way along the top of Division Tango. So in the coming days, you're going to see activity with crews. They work real slow in there because of how steep it is and how much rollout and the trees that are falling in there, but they're making progress with the fallers, getting rid of and mitigating all those hazards. So head fire's looking excellent. Down on the Townsend, that one's been contained in mop up, and now we're just patrolling it for any hot spots that may pick up. Haven't found any in the last couple days. The Scott and the Gold, thanks to our CAL FIRE counterparts, they've returned that to our team for management. It's been under our team, but our folks are now managing that. What I'm hearing is this been mopped up 400 feet on each of the sides and across the top. And we have folks down in the creek that are mopping up and strengthening uphill to get that fire out away from any of the, well, there's lodge down there and some other values at risk. So Scott Fire is looking good. And then down on the Lake Fire, those folks have been working hard on that fire up in the Marble Mountains, just south of Lover's Camp. And they're still in there working that. Don't expect any growth on that fire either. So overall, what we've been trying to do, our priority is to get the infrastructure back in place, which includes 96 Scott River Road, so that there's some normalcy back to the communities within our fire area. So with that, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'm going to pass it off to Jeff Shelton, our fire behavior analyst.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Shelton, Team 5 Fire Behavior. So I'm going to direct your attention to the matrix over here that shows our fire weather. Just for reference, the conditions in green favor low to moderate fire behavior, yellow is high fire behavior, and red is extreme fire behavior. As you can see, we're transitioning into a lot of green, which is good. We have a weather system that's going to be entering the region from the northwest. It's going to provide us abundant cloud cover, higher humidity, and lower temperatures. One of the things we're also looking at with this is that we're going to get a chance for some precipitation. Tomorrow, chances go up to 25%, mainly in the afternoon, and then they peak on Friday and into Saturday, and then as we go into next week, they drop off. One of the things to be very mindful about with the system that's coming in, the National Weather Service in Medford has issued a flash flood watch, not a warning, but a watch, for the eastern part of the fire. That would be specifically the Head, the Scott, and the Lake, this side of the fire, for tomorrow evening, moving into Friday. What that flash flood watch means is there could be brief heavy downpours, the type of activity that we saw with the remnants of Hillary when they came across. I would urge you to maintain vigilance and watch your local news sources to stay informed as we move into this period. From a fire behavior standpoint, as we look back at the matrix, we will have this cooling and moistening period, and then we start to get into some warmer, drier days, more typical of this time of year. It is going to be the last day of August tomorrow, but we're going to be moving into September during this period, and we're definitely going to have some weather that feels like September starting tomorrow and into the next period. From a fire behavior standpoint, all this moisture in the atmosphere and that maybe could be coming out of the atmosphere is really going to make the fire struggle to get up and move. It's not going to want to move horizontally or vertically when the fuels are wet. But make no mistake, there's a lot of material that is dead and large that has the ability to shelter and hide heat, and it will retain that heat right through this event with no problem. And as we get into this drier and warmer period again next week, it will slowly emerge. The good news is every time that fire goes through one of these cycles where it has to claw its way out of high humidity and then try to spread its energy and claw its way out, it loses a little bit of steam every single time. So all of the good work that you're seeing out there that is owed to the firefighters that are going direct on the fire's edge is being assisted by the weather that we've been having, and the team is taking full advantage of those opportunities every chance that we get. So with the flash flood watch that's there, please stay ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. With that, I'm going to bring up Kristen Allison. She's our Air Resource Advisor.
Thanks, Jeff. Kristen Allison, Air Resource Advisor, and we do continue to see widespread improvements in our air quality, with the exception of Weaverville and also our Forks of Salmon. As you can see, our wind direction has actually been pushing that smoke down into there. So as that passage has gone through, it has been collecting, and it is right in that direct area. Now, with the weather event that Jeff did talk about, this does give us a potential for some smoke-induced fog, and our greatest chance of that is going to be Friday morning, so we will be watching on that. And that would be that Highway 96 corridor. And what that means is that fog would impede your visibility in front of you. So with the colder temperatures, the higher humidities, and the smoke from those fires, it could actually create that fog. So we'll be watching that. Outside of that, with that wetting, rain that is coming, that should provide really great improvements, and we will see those improvements through the weekends. With that, I'm going to invite up Jeremiah LaRue, Siskiyou County Sheriff.
Thank you, Kristen. Well, good evening, everyone. Just a couple things. I want to continue to thank you for being patient with us, working with us to make sure that we can get you home as soon as possible and make sure that the roadways are clear for all the people that are working out there. Everyone's doing a great job. Again, our goal is to get you home as quick as possible. We've made some good progress with our zones, decreasing them so that we can get from orders to warnings. So in the next couple days, I think we're going to see some additional decreases, which is exciting. Right now, as far as I know, Highway 96 has been pretty easy to navigate through. If you guys are hearing anything different, please let us know so we can kind of communicate with the rest of the folks that are out there. But we're seeing a lot of positive things happening. And I want to, again, thank all the partners that are involved in that. We couldn't do it unless we kind of unite and kind of tackle this thing together. So that's pretty much all that I have. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to answer those or to ask them, and we will answer them either tonight or in the future. Okay. And with that, I'd like to call up Rachel Smith, Forest Service Agency Administrator.
Thank you very much. Rachel Smith. I'm the Forest Supervisor of the Klamath National Forest. I'm really glad to be here tonight, and just wanted to say, again, thank you very much for the constant vigilance over the last couple of weeks in response to these fires. Since the beginning of this fire siege, we've responded to more than 26 fires across the Klamath National Forest by itself. And as you know, there's fires going on throughout Northern California and Southern Oregon, so we're very much not alone. Just wanted to say thank you. We have 3,300 firefighters that are out there fighting this fire, and they're working really hard. They're from all over the country. They're coming from as far as Maryland, from Southern California, from Florida, and each of them is really integral to helping us resolve this fire. Also wanted to say thank you to some of our local partners. We had a really unusual circumstance come up, and CAL FIRE Siskiyou unit stood up shoulder to shoulder with me, just as I always expect them to, and they have helped us out with feeding the firefighters over the next 2 days. So this is really unusual, and they just came out of nowhere to help us when we really needed it. I just wanted to say thank you so much to CAL FIRE Siskiyou unit. Next, I wanted to mention a little bit about some of the responses that we've had to some of the feedback that we've received from you and members of the community over the last couple of days. One of the concerns expressed at one of our recent public meetings was on Grayback Road. So Grayback Road, of course, is a vital arterial for us, getting in and out of Happy Camp and also broadly Siskiyou County, and a lot of concerns were raised about it. So we actually have district personnel from Happy Camp Oak Knoll, it's your local district personnel, working along with firefighters to clear the road, make sure it's really ready for access in case we need it in an emergency. The second thing we heard in terms of feedback was we needed more local information. So based on that feedback, the team, this great incident management team, along with our local public affairs folks, have put a pop-up in Happy Camp. You can drive down the street, it's right next to the post office, and you can have local up-to-the-minute information about road closures, about the fire situation, everything else. Please keep the feedback coming. That's how we get better. So just wanted to say we really appreciate it. Finally, just wanted to mention some of the really good stuff that's going on the fire. We have a burned area emergency response team that is just in the process of arriving. What their role is to come out and look at the impacts of the fire and decide what we can do immediately to help stabilize those landscapes before the winter comes. So they're arriving. We're getting folks from all over the West, including our local specialists. The other team that is out in the field as we speak, and it includes representation from the Karuk tribe, the Yurok tribe, Quartz Valley Indian Reservation, Fish and Wildlife Service, and the U.S. Forest Service, is the Salmon and Sediment Impacts Team. So the SASSY team, as we're calling them, has been working all over the burned landscape just to look at what the sedimentation impacts are on fish. One really cool impact that they saw today, they were out in the field together, and they saw a lot of fish, and they're thriving in the McKinney burn scar. So that's been an area of significant concern. I know many members of the community are wondering about the Hancock fire, and I did want to provide a brief update on that. There's another incident management team that is taking primary responsibility for the Hancock fire. It's a familiar team for us in Siskiyou County. This is California Interagency Team 2. It is with the incident commander, Nikki Johnny, and she worked with us on the McKinney fire last year. So you'll recognize her from that. She, along with her awesome team, are closely coordinating with our IMT, and we're flying that fire. We're working on getting resources into that fire as quickly as we can. That's all I have for tonight, and I wanted to introduce our incident commander, Dustin Mueller.
Thank you, Forest Supervisor Smith. Got some exciting news to update you on. The staff here on the fire, we've recently raised containment up from 39% yesterday. Tonight's information update will show 43%, and that's a commitment to the hard work that all the firefighters on the ground will be continuing to display. So a couple of things that I like to continue to go over is I'm committed on day 14 right now for another 7 days to show you guys an aggressive full suppression strategy on these fires all over the forest. So we got 7 days left in our tour. I'm committed to that objective from our Unified Agency administrators. It's a really good time out there right now, and on the fire line, firefighters are happy. They're getting fed. They're doing good work for the community. They're stabilizing the community. They feel like, every day as evacuation zones change from mandatories to orders to warnings. That's a plus for them. That's a win. So I want to also talk about a little bit of our priorities in operations and as incident commanders. And we remain committed to our firefighters, and we wouldn't be putting them in this steep ground in the U-Fish or along the river corridor. Firefighter safety is our number one priority, along with your safety in the community. So those are our two highest values right now, along with stabilization, and that includes the environment, erosion control, going back and doing the rehab that's needed to come for the winter time. So with that, I want to thank you guys as a community, because we value you guys as part of our team, or we think of you guys as part of our team as well, because all the help we're getting down there, especially downriver right now, the community support and outcry is really helpful to us in getting us into those certain lands and really helping us out. So thank you and have a great night. I'll turn it back to Lisa.
So that concludes our formal presentations of our meeting. We'll answer questions now from the chat, and if we run out of time, we'll be sure to continue answering them in the chat. First up, we have Alex with one of the questions.
All right, so received 2 questions in the chat. Good questions. Why is Scott River closed if Scott and Gold look good? So we have a bigger team than just our fire team, and that includes our local cooperators such as Caltrans, the sheriff, the highway patrol. So Scott River Road in particular, I think there's going to be good news coming soon. We have to finish up some of the brush disposal that was down on the roads to make it safe for the public to go through. Once that's completed, then we'll reevaluate with our partners, and if they give the thumbs up, then we'll be opening Scott River Road. All right. The second one is aircraft able to fly over the Hancock. So there's a couple things that are happening outside of our team that folks should be aware of. There was a new fire today called the King Fire. And then, of course, down to the south of us is the Hancock Fire on the Six Rivers. And then south of the Elliott, there's the Blue Creek 2 Fire. And all three of those are fairly close to our area of management. The Hancock, I know they flew it today. I don't know if they did any action on it. That's managed by another team. But I do know that they're actively looking at what is happening fire behavior-wise on that fire and what they're going to be doing in the coming days. The King Fire was initial attack by the Klamath National Forest. Last I heard was it was 1 to 3 acres. They had staffed on it, and we were flying quite a bit of aircraft on that, including helicopters and fixed wing. And then on the Blue Creek Fire down to the south, which there's the Blue Creek, the Perch, and a couple others. There's a Smith over here to the east. They have a team down there managing those fires, and just looking at the fire behavior today, there wasn't a lot of movement on any of those fires today. So that's all the questions I have. I really want to thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you again. I'd like to bring up Rachel Smith.
Hello again. So I've got 2 questions for the Forest Service. First question is, and I promise I did not plant this in the chat, does the Forest Service plan to replant trees? Absolutely. We absolutely do. So what we do after a fire like this is we work with our foresters on the forest as well as members of the local community to identify the most effective way to replant trees in an enduring way. So we're looking for not just planting trees, but planting trees that are going to thrive in the places that they're being planted. So we're going to need help with that, and just wanted to put out as an early plug, we need your help. We'd love to invite you to tree planting days. We'd love your involvement in thinking about how and where we plant. All of that is really important to us. So stay tuned on that. My second question is, can the Forest Service predict the end of fire season in Siskiyou County? That's a really good question. It's really hard to predict, particularly because we've had unusual years for the last number of years. This is my 4th fire season on the Klamath National Forest, and each of the 4 of them, I hear from Siskiyou County residents that it's one of the most unusual fire seasons that they've seen. I can tell you historically, so this is speaking on an average of the last 20 or 30 years, we can expect what we call a season-ending event. It's sometime in late October, early November. When we say season-ending event, what we mean by that is something like a very significant rainstorm or snow, something that eliminates the chance of future fires or future fires with significant potential to grow. But in terms of anticipating what the time is going to be for this year, I can't guess. Are there any other questions? Okay, I will hand it back to our moderator.
Thank you. Remember, you can always send us your questions by emailing us at 2023.happycampcomplex@firenet.gov. You can send us a direct message on the Klamath National Forest Facebook page or X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you'd like to talk with someone, we have public information officers on the phone at 530-330-5441. Thank you for joining us, and have a safe evening.